My name is Dusty Kathleen Ross, and I studied at the University of Versailles in Saint-Quentin, about 20 minutes outside of Paris. And one of my favorite things about being in France was submerging myself in the culture. I was very lucky and got to visit Epernay, Giverny, Blois, so I feel like I got a really good idea about French culture. In addition to that, one of my favorite things about the experience that the study abroad program gave me was traveling. The study abroad program did give me a lot of information, and also the mentor who was directing my program had me get in contact with students who are already there at the University of Versailles. So most of my questions were answered prior to leaving, but there were a lot of questions that were not answered that I feel that I could have benefited from having more information on. For example, with the visa, you have additional paperwork to fill out once you arrive in the country. It's a pretty tedious experience, especially if you're in a new country and you don't speak the language, and you're trying to figure out all of the bits and pieces to make everything go properly so you can be legal and stay in the country. And classes in France were similar, but not exactly the same as they are in the States. I took a Southern American literature class, which is ironic considering that I was in France. It was really beneficial for me though. French critical theory is very different than American theory. They tend to focus on minute details as opposed to broader connections that we do in America. So Georgia State students are very familiar with Pause and Go Solar, where you easily look up your classes and you register and it's done. You'll definitely have a different experience in France. It's very antiquated. They post paper all over corkboard with all the classes, and you go along the paper and you find the classes that you think might coordinate with the classes that you need to be taking at Georgia State. After you've found those classes, you write them on a little note card and you hand them in, and that's how you're registered for your classes. My courses counted as electives. I did do research. Specifically, my first assignment was on the book Deliverance. So it was interesting to have a French perspective on Southern culture. Of course, Deliverance was filmed in Georgia, so it definitely was an interesting experience. My favorite experience in memory while I was in France was definitely meeting new people. Because I was in an international program at the University of Versailles at Saint-Quentin, I had friends who were from Greece and Spain, Mallorca, all sorts of different areas, and I feel like I benefited from learning other people's culture in this environment. And in addition, traveling was probably one of my favorite memories. Winning the Global Experience Scholarship is what made it possible for me to even go to France. I have been on my own since I was 16 and worked full-time and paid my own way through school. So when my mentor suggested I go to France, I laughed at her. I thought there was no way in the world I could afford to spend 6 months, A, without a job, and B, with no money. I have savings, but not to fund a 6-month trip to another continent. By applying for the scholarship and therefore winning the scholarship, it gave me the opportunity that otherwise I would have never had. My first travel tip is pack light. Ryanair and EasyJet, which are the two air carriers that you'll predominantly use in Europe, have the smallest baggage requirements. The reason you get tickets for so cheap is because checked baggage is insanely expensive. So take your normal carry-on baggage that you would use to get on Delta or American Airlines in the States and cut it in half. So it takes some crafty packing. I found that layering is a really good technique. Go a little outside of your comfort zone because you'll be able to see and experience things that otherwise you never would. My advice to future study abroad students is ask lots of questions. I actually wrote a blog at the request of my mentor who helped me go to France, and I took notes like nobody's business. Anyone who's coming to St. Cloud or the University of Versailles after me will know exactly how to fill out their OFI paperwork, exactly how to fill out their CAF paperwork, exactly what grocery stores there are and what they are in relation to grocery stores we have in Georgia, what trains to take to see certain sites. I went to great detail to make sure that anyone who followed in my footsteps would have some guidelines and suggestions on how to do things the easiest way possible. I would like to say thank you to Georgia State University, the Study Abroad program, and the Global Experience Scholarship, which made it possible for me to go to France.